Star Wars has been going through an identity crisis. And by Star Wars, I mostly mean Star Wars fans. This crisis makes sense given the many interpretations of the question, what is a Jedi? I think the answer for this has been segmented by 3 different eras of the IP's life cycle, and now it is so contradictory that there really is no right answer anymore. So, in my subjective opinion, what is the answer to this question that has evidence for so many different outcomes? Well, let's look at the first era. The first era is the original trilogy era. In this timeline, there was a very spiritual understanding of the Force and people's connection to it. Yoda and Ben lay out for us what it is. It's an energy field that life creates and binds the universe together. In essence, it can be tapped into by all living creatures to different levels, and it becomes less balanced when it is used selfishly by darker motives. Luke becomes the embodiment of both of his mentors' teachings by the end of the story. After rebelling against their philosophy to try and solve the world's problems through rash emotional instinct initially, he learns operating off of fear is bad when he suffers the consequences of trying to save his friends on Bespin. And he learns that anger only leads to suffering and pain when used to force the situation. The Jedi are meant to be sages of knowledge, wisdom, and defense of good. As Yoda says,
a Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack.
The prequel era throws this concept out entirely, and makes kind of a hypocrite out of Yoda. The Jedi become a military force, trying to control the use of the Force, because of their fear of the Sith. They are not afraid to reject their role as keepers of the peace by preemptively becoming war generals to fight the plot of the Sith, and they actively go after evil forces with the intention of destroying them. You can make an argument that this is a form of self-defense, but it sounds more like the attacking language that Yoda said was not very Jedi-like in Empire, especially after he stated that the Jedi are to be passive and detached from aggression until they must defend themselves or others from it. We went from passive Buddhist-like monks to warrior monks in this era of change. You could say that Yoda embraced a more passive ideology after learning from his mistakes, but Obi-Wan seems to think that if Anakin was trained by Yoda instead of himself, he might not have turned to the dark side.
I thought that I could instruct him just as well as Yoda. I was wrong.
This alludes to the idea that Yoda was the way he was in Empire long before the prequel era, and that this is just one of the several contradictions that exist between these trilogies. Also, the idea that the level of Force ability is controlled by microscopic life forms in your body is also a picture of the Jedi's elitist mentality about who should qualify to join their religion. You might say this could expand upon how life creates the Force and manifests in nature, but it seems to make it less of a spiritual practice if one is born with more mystic power cells than another. So, in summary, the Jedi, according to the prequel era, are religious elitists that use governmental power to enforce their beliefs about the nature of the universe and the galaxy, often through force or indoctrination of the ignorant and young. The third era of interpretation is the Disney Star Wars era. This era states that the Jedi are a philosophy based on a false premise that there is a dark and a light side. It states that trying to gatekeep the Force is a vain, destructive idea.
That Force does not belong to the Jedi. To say that if the Jedi die, the light dies is vanity. Can you feel that?
It simply states that nuance is found in people that are both passive and highly emotional, and that the truth of how one should use the Force is found within yourself. It separates the conviction of the individual from the tribalism of dark and light side cults. The sequel trilogy ultimately states that legacy is made by choice and not by lineage, and that the names of mythological figures can be given to anyone who can rise to the call of their moral convictions. Basically, the Jedi are a rule book, and rules are unnatural barriers to true identity. This identity can only be found through experience and deciding for yourself how to harness the power of nature to conform to your own conviction. In summary of all these interpretations, The Jedi are either a stoic contender for life to be defended against the selfish motives of others, or they are a warrior cult that tried to destroy attachment to unstable, yet natural emotions for anyone that can tap into the natures of the Force in the universe. Personally, I like the idea of what Luke embodied in the original trilogy and in the Legends material, which actually transcends the stoic defender. He goes on to be stoic, but with a decisive wisdom, defends the galaxy from those who force their will on the natural world. He is gentle with even the most emotional of students, and does not force them to be part of his order. Some people give in to hate, fear, and anger, but others become more balanced people. Love is not discouraged, and leads to generations of people that are willing to learn from Luke's wisdom, or reject it altogether. A Jedi should be a noble knight that protects not only people from physical harm, but their liberty to find their natural connection to the Force, that creates, binds, and penetrates all life in the universe. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think a Jedi should be in the comments down below. If you found this interesting, like and subscribe for more thoughts and explorations of media and entertainment. Also, may the Force be with you.